The House comes to questions for oral answer. Question number 1 in the name of Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by all of his statements?
Honourable Bill English on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Prime Minister, given the Prime Minister said, quote, last week we were looking through the various policies we want to announce, so they were finalised, I suppose, last week, end of quote. On what date and at what time then was the decision taken to double lane the 8 Northland bridges not listed in the draft Northland Regional Land Transport Plan 2015 to 21?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I can't give him exactly that detail other than to say it was before it was announced. But it's certainly the government's plan to campaign on what it plans to do for Northland. The issue for New Zealand First is whether or not they are for or against the bridges being double laned.
Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, Mr. Speaker, my colleague Tracy Martin yesterday asked this very question. It's been 24 hours since that question was put. We would have thought that by this stage the Prime Minister's office might have been able to give you that answer. It's not unreasonable to expect that.
Can I refer the member to the primary question he's asked? Does the Prime Minister stand by all his statements? Then to ask a supplementary question that said on what particular date and at what time was this decision made. The Minister is quite at liberty to say, when he arises to answer that question, that he does not have that information with him. Further supplementary?
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Ron Mark.
To the Prime Minister, since the 3 News Reid Research poll of 5th of March 2015, what is the cumulative value of policy pledges made by ministers to Northland?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that is that National Party policy is the one that's been announced because we're campaigning to get an MP into Parliament who represents Northland, not one who represents Southland.
Order. Order.
Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Order. This is a point of order.
And point of order, Mr. Speaker. The question was nothing to do about what they're campaigning to do. It was about the value of the policies they've announced.
Order. The member's now making exactly the same point as he just made before. If he asks a very general primary question, does the Prime Minister stand by all his statements, and then he moves to ask quite specific supplementary questions about the cumulative dollar value, he cannot expect the Minister to have that information with him. Does the member wish to ask further supplementaries, or shall we move to
supplementary?
Number 2? Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
Further to the Prime Minister. Further to the Prime Minister's. To the Prime Minister. Further to the Prime Minister's points of order yesterday. Are the pledges he is making to the people of Northland being made in his capacity as the Prime Minister or as the leader of a very nervous National Party?
Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there's no responsibility for the Prime Minister's role as leader of the National Party, but I can say they are promises made out of respect for the voters of Northland who need to know what they're voting for, not what they're voting against. And part of the plan is to get an MP who will service Northland, not a new New Zealand MP, New Zealand First MP from Invercargill, which is what that member is campaigning for.
Order. The answer.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
We'll try an easy one. Try an easy one, Jerry. To the Prime Minister, then, how many ministers have visited Northland since the 5th of March, and what specific ministerial duties have they been performing whilst they were up there?
Honourable Bill English.
Oh, well, Mr. Speaker, if the member spent more time up there trying to elect and not trying to elect an MP from Southland for Northland, he would know. There's been quite a few ministerial visits because the government does a lot in Northland and it plans to do a lot more. And we believe that Northland voters deserve to see what the plan is.
Question number 2, Grant Robertson.